punched in the nose, they don't like that so much. So I have a feeling that what you say is ultimately going to happen if they don't turn over the records. Because how does $3 billion go missing where neither there's a record of the wirer or the recipient? That doesn't happen in any bank. And Mega Bank is not a third world bank in the middle of, Uruguay or someplace, or some banana republic. It is a major bank in a major country. Let's face it, Taiwan is a serious industrial nation. We can have debates about the leadership, but it is a serious industrial country. You don't just, if Chase Manhattan Bank, JP Morgan Chase, would wire $3 million and not have records of the recipients, do you not think some of those guys would go to jail? So I think ultimately that very much could happen, and God willing, they'll either do one or two things, either turn it over or they're going to see some people stand trial in criminal court in the United States. Very good point. Thank you, sir.
When this statement comes out, they have to come up with a name with it.
Professor Chen?
6 months. So
6 months will
from the day
of the order. And what was the date of the order? August.
August 19th.
Yeah.
February. Yeah. If they refuse to turn over information this long and we're willing to pay $180 million, I'm very curious what information, if any, they're going to turn over. And how do we know it's even legitimate? The person turning over the information can turn over what they want. Yeah.
But do you have any ideas about those
All right, guys, I've had a lot of strange phone calls from people in mainland China and Taiwan in the past couple of weeks. And in fairness to the people who've reached out to me, I'm not going to name names, but I've heard a lot of theories and a lot of conspiracy theories about everything from family of government officials to mentioned on Dennis's program, the Yamagamaguchi and the Kuomintang and what have you. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. But I can tell you it's not more than common sense to realize that somebody doesn't pay a $180 million fine and violates at least 3 New York State and a federal judge's order and refuses to turn over in the United States, and a Panamanian Supreme Court order that we achieved in Panama and served on them. They refuse to respond unless they're protecting somebody very important. We don't know. Please.
There's several things here. One is the intellectual property. Next one is that if you're trying to bring something to justice, and that may lead to eventually this money laundering issue now more and more being exposed. But my question is that who is this citizen? Why make a bank trying to protect it? We understand that now these money launderers and all that, they have the big guys, big fish out there that are trying to protect. Why?
You sound just like Professor Dennis Penn. He says the same thing as you.
Oh, really? He was my classmate, by the way.
Yeah, classmate. Okay.
I didn't watch his program, but he was my classmate.
He's a great guy.
Yes.
I like him very much. And I like that Mrs. Chow. Coco. She's a fire. I sent her a book. I said, Coco, you are a tiger. You sound just like her. I think the answer is, who's Sam Wu? He's a pawn. He's someone they use like Angel Caballero, who's the branch manager who they're claiming never was a branch manager. That's interesting. I'll find out. They're using people as fronts to move money on behalf of people whose names do not want to surface, whose identities do not want to disclose. So how do you launder money? The very definition is you use other people's names and other people's accounts to move money for people who are not named to places, other places which you do not want to identify. That's where phony corporations are set up. In New York, we used to have a lot of restaurants that nobody ever showed up to eat, but they were doing millions of dollars worth of business. And you can just guess who was running their money through these restaurants. They were laundering the money. They were taking the money from illicit activities and moving it through legitimate companies and making it look like revenue. They'd even pay taxes on it, and they put it in banks. But you just can't show up at JP Morgan Chase in New York and give them $20 million in cash and not have an excuse where you got the money. Under our banking laws, you can't do that. So I think these guys are just people who were used by much bigger people to hide money that they were getting illicitly. And one of the guys who called me, you know him, I don't want to mention his name because he was formerly with the Taiwan Secret Service and he was also a personal bodyguard to the former president of Taiwan, said that a few million of it went to an American president to help him with litigation fees with one of his personal cases, and he then later ruled the way the Taiwanese government wants. This all will come out eventually because the FBI is already looking into this. But I got to tell you something, this is all interconnected, okay? And I'm not a big believer in conspiracy theories, but after seeing this, I'm with you.
It sounds like it's like $40 million. They try to move out of this, central use factories.
Right.
They might as well give you $40 million and that's it, right?
I'm going to hire you as my lawyer.
They pay $180 million now, so what the? I just don't get it. I don't get it. What is it, this thing?
Because I think that when you're dealing with at least $3 billion, what we know of, okay?
That is today.
180 million is less than 7% of $3 billion.
True, but
So to them, it's chump change. Later on, I think and this gentleman's question that I spoke with earlier about shutting down banks. You shut down the branches in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, you're talking about tens of billions of dollars of capital investment being shut down. That's when all of a sudden it's no longer a parking ticket fee. That's when it hurts. And your question was very much on point. Yeah. I'm sorry, there was another question. Yes, ma'am.
Will you consider for the president election in 2020?
You must not like me.
We will support.
I like you very much, but you must not like me. That's a very dirty business. You think this business is dirty dealing with the banks? My God, run for president.
Because it will reach your goal eventually. Much easier and make the country much clean, and the tax code will be changed, and the financial business will be much clean, based on your belief. So we will support you if you do.
If I do this, I'm going to hire you as my press secretary. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
We had Donald Trump take over.
Yeah.
We talked about today with the trading with foreign countries. It will be more positive American goods, right? Going forward.
Yeah.
You think it will make a difference? This administration? Also, you say you collect about 3-4 million so far.
Right.
And,
They just paid my legal fees,
You
that's
need
all.
to collect more, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say is 3-5 years from now? Would you bring back a lot of money back to you?
Well, to answer your first question, I really still believe, in spite of all this, in free trade. But in order to have free trade, you have to have fair trade.
Fair trade, yes.
Okay? I have no doubt that the people sitting in this room, you built your sportswear business, you did it yourself, started from nothing, built a successful sportswear business, okay? You didn't need to be protected, you competed, and you competed successfully. If somebody, though, would come into your factories and steal your machinery and counterfeit it and steal your designs and steal your customer list, now it's not competition, it's thievery, okay? So I would never get to the point would say we would not have free trade, because I think free trade, if the rules are equally applied, is good for all the competitors worldwide. And I have no doubt that your kids and my kids, after they get out of college, will be very successful in competing with anyone in the world. We have that intellectual base, okay, here. We have great education, we got great schools. What I would do is enforce our trade laws aggressively. And I believe it's open season on American companies because our idiots in Congress have allowed it to be. They have not enforced the law. And I'll tell you one of the reasons. To a certain extent, because of the incompetence in our administration, and I don't think it's fair to blame China for our problems, because most of our problems was created by our own stupidity in our Congress. Okay? We have a $20 trillion deficit. Look, the leaders of the People's Republic of China didn't come to to the United States and hold a gun to our head and said, you got to get 20 trillion in debt. They did this. The idiots in Congress. So I have to tell you, and I mean really, most of the people in Congress, if you look it up, couldn't qualify for an American Express card because they've had such irresponsible personal financial management. They went bankrupt once or twice, and now they're running the biggest budget in the world. Isn't it crazy? You know, this is the only job you can run for without any qualifications or requirements. Would they allow a doctor to do open heart surgery on you without a medical degree? So let these guys go into Congress with nothing but, excuse me, bullshit stories, you know? That was their only qualification. So all I'm saying to you is I would definitely enforce the laws, and I would definitely require maybe make some changes to make sure that we are enforcing laws. Because one thing to have a law, it's another thing to enforce it, okay? Make sure the playing field's equal. I also would tell you that we need to focus in nanotechnology if we're, you know, I was just at a conference with the Israeli Navy SEALs and the US SEALs where some of the SEALs who had already got out of the business have started high-tech companies in Silicon Valley. One of which I told you is a GPS company. It was a Jewish guy from New York who went to Israel to volunteer for the Navy SEALs, came back, and he developing a GPS company where he can change the accuracy of GPSs from 3 feet to 4 inches. This company's got close to, I don't know, $500 million or $1 billion valuation now. No revenue. I mean, God bless America, they only happen here. But to me, an average person would say, well, what does it matter? You know, such a valuation going from 3 feet to 4 inches. When we talk about driverless vehicles, 3 feet in a traffic lane is not going to keep you from getting into an accident. 4 inches is keeping you in your lane will. So it's a huge breakthrough. That's what happens in this country. But again, if his technology, his algorithms were stolen and given to countries that are maybe authoritarian, not friendly to us, and now your children or my children who might have worked for a company like that and got a great salary don't have that opportunity, that's a problem. So I believe in free trade, but I believe in fair trade. In terms of the collection, look, what did drive me 14 years chasing Megabank? I spent $1 million of my own money, maybe more, chasing them. Was it money? No. I was just one angry dude who just had enough, okay? and I remember when I was growing up, I didn't have resources. You know, my mother was a nurse who raised 3 boys after my dad passed away in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York. I mean, we didn't have the resources to fight Megabank or what have you, and I remember how it felt when you were someone who didn't have the power, didn't have the resources to fight the injustice. So after I sold my company, built a real estate company, and had the resources to do it, you're damn right I went after them. And I went after them. They're probably thinking, just like I'm thinking they're crazy not to turn over the documents, they're probably thinking, this guy's crazy, he'll just never go away. He's like a pit bull. He'll run after me, you know? Well, you're right, for the record, into the camera, Mega Bank guys, I am crazy, I'm coming after you, and you're never going to get rid of me until I bring you to justice.
Coming back to Central Loop, you know, I know that for sure this year your intellectual property. But, you know, if just for this, then, you know, for any commercial bank, just come over whatever documents information. So there should be something behind the back. Have you ever looked into political commercial relationship with Central Loop as a background? Otherwise, why? You know, make a bank so protected.
The big question is why. And I have to tell you, I honestly don't have that answer, other than
But have you looked at, you know, who Samsung was associated?
Dennis is doing that right now, Dennis Peng, and he actually is much farther ahead of me on this subject. I still believe he's just a pawn in this process. We will ultimately find out, and when we do, it'll be obvious to everyone why they went to this effort to protect. One thing I want to point out, and I want to make sure I get this on record very clearly, I do not want to see Megabank destroyed or shut down. There are plenty of people who go to work every day at Megabank branches around the world who are just trying to feed their families, who are working hard, who I believe are good, honest employees and citizens. And by the way, a few of them have spoken out to me. I won't name names, but a lot of the information I've gotten recently is some Megabank employees who've had enough. They see their directors paying themselves millions of dollars of salaries and benefits while they're doing the work at the teller line, at the banking line, and trying to do the right thing, being honest, taking care of their customers. So I believe of the 5,000 plus employees that Megabank has, the vast majority of them are good people. I don't want to take their job away. I don't want to destroy the company. But what I do want to do is find out just exactly who's benefiting from these billions of dollars of illicit transfers and who's benefiting for them for being the bank of choice for the Samson Woos of the world, whose only business it is to steal from other people. That is not ethical, it's not legal, that's really what I'm focusing on. And again, I don't want to see Megabank destroyed. I do believe the vast majority of the Megabank employees go to work every day trying to do the right thing. And some of them, I can tell you, have just about had it with the corrupt leadership. And they've been very, very helpful and cooperative. So, you know, for the record, I don't want to say Megabank, all Barry works for it is evil. That's not accurate and correct. There are just some people in leadership who are acting on their own interests rather than the interests of their employees, their shareholders, and their investors. And those are the people that I'm at odds with. Okay. Anything else, guys? All right. Sure, everybody wants to eat now, so I'll get off the stage. But again, thank you to Dennis and to John. And by the way, there's a guy named Steve who's here from Dallas. He flew all the way from Dallas. Where are you, Steve? Raise your hand. To be with you. So thank you, Stephen.
Hey, Steven.